Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you to ride the D train for another episode of KFS's 25 for 25. Listen, I've been opening these episodes with the same kind of rote thing. Hey, welcome to another.
And in justified fashion, you're having internet issues because that was a flagrant one that just happened to you. So, whatever you just said just completely cut off and we have to restart.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll try. I mean, my reaction was still the same. So I'll try to. Honestly, we could just keep this in. Mitchell Robinson would be proud of how this podcast started, to be honest.
I think we have to keep it in. I think we have to keep it in because Mitchell Robinson's.
Yeah.
And that has to stay in also. I'm not going to say
this is the most Mitchell Robinson opening to a podcast in the history of this of our show, at least, of Knicks Film School. But I'm well, John. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about Mitch because unlike a lot of players that we have covered already on this list, and unlike a few players that we got coming up, I think, and I don't know if this is great advertisement for this podcast, I think the Mitchell Robinson conversation is maybe not a fairly straightforward one, but like for me personally, an easy one to have. In that, despite what shout out to Alex, Alex's feelings may be about my feelings about Mitchell Robinson. I have my feelings about him are very uncomplicated. I love Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson's freaking awesome. Mitchell Robinson is one of the easiest players in the history of the Knicks for me to root for. And I'm just really excited to spend a little time talking about him, praising him, and just kind of going through what has certainly been an interesting career. And maybe get into what makes this ranking a little bit interesting.
Same. I doing a little research on Mitch and how he got here. It's very clear to me how he ended up at number 8, why I could see someone putting him a little lower, and how interesting his path to any type of ranking like this has been. So I'm excited to talk about him.
Before we get into all that, a reminder, if you are enjoying these episodes, if this is the first episode of Knicks Film School you've ever tuned into, either way, follow us on social media at Knick Film School, SKOOL. You can follow me at JC Macri MBA. You can follow Andrew. Why haven't we been plugging your social media accounts? What is it?
I'm active online, so I don't need to use the pod to promote my social media. That was mean, but it's also justified.
That was way below the belt. Again, shout out Mitch Robinson.
At 23 Savage, and good luck if you follow him on Snapchat. That's for sure. I don't know if you can follow people on Snapchat. Actually, follow him on Instagram because that's a ride on the D train for sure.
I did not know Snapchat was still around. No, it's still around.
It's a thing. It's more of a 1-to-1 thing, though. I think I stopped using it when I turned 25.
So did I. Anyway, so follow us on all those things. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on your alerts on YouTube. And, of course, if you are so kind as to give us a nice 5-star rating wherever you get your pods and write a review. Those things help us out a lot. On that note.
And if you want an ad-free version of the audio feed, it's available on Patreon for $7 a month. As well as bonus content from John, DJ, and Benji in other tiers as well. Can't forget the Patreon, John.
Can't forget the Patreon. Got to promote all the things. Okay, let's go through Mitchell Robinson's resume, which I think will provide an important backdrop to the conversation about him, starting with the first line on his resume here, which Andrew has so kindly created. He attended Pine Forest High School, and then he was drafted number 36 overall by the Knicks in 2018. Notably, missing from that first line of his resume is that he did attend college at Western Kentucky University. Did I get that right?
So the interesting thing about how Mitch ends up on this list and how he just ended up in the NBA in general, and doing a little research on what that 1 year of college, which if you go to the NBA draft official site and their designation, the Knicks are credited with drafting Mitchell Robinson in the second round in 2018 out of Western Kentucky. He went to Western Kentucky in the fall of 2017 and was kicked off their basketball team and suspended from all team activities before the season ever started, before classes ever started. They were about to take a team trip to Costa Rica, and before that ever happened, he violated team rules and was suspended indefinitely for those actions. And if you go through, this is half a Wikipedia search, half looking through some interviews that have been done about Mitch, but like he planned to transfer over the next month and a half and looked at Louisiana State, looked at Kansas, looked at University of New Orleans. And the thought was he would be gone by the end of August at a different school if he was granted a transfer. And by mid-September, his new plan was I'm just going to work out for the NBA draft instead this year. And because he stayed as an online student at Western Kentucky, he's still technically designated as out of Western Kentucky, but he's a bit of a trendsetter in an unprecedented way, that he's the first NBA draft pick to be drafted out of a college without playing a single game for said college.
So for anybody maybe who's a little unfamiliar with the backstory, even before that, the reason why Mitchell Robinson was kind of worth all the trouble, both for the college he initially went to and then for maybe some other colleges who were thinking about taking him on and decided ultimately not to, is he was a McDonald's All-American. He was very widely considered, shout out to Sam Vecini, who I remember was one of the first people I ever heard utter Mitchell Robinson's name, widely considered a top 10 talent in a draft that was viewed at the time. Again, in retrospect, the Mo Bambas of the world, their careers may not have panned out, but at the time, it was looked at as like an exceptional draft class. And there obviously are some really good talents from that draft class who have gone on to have some very nice NBA careers. So the fact that he was in the top 10 in terms of talent said everything you needed to know about Mitch. I will just add a little bit of color to this conversation, which is that in my past life, when I used to try to be a little bit more of a reporter with this stuff, having like spoken to people who knew Mitch very well and know Mitch very well to this day, and like what that situation was like for him at the time. First of all, he had been through several agents before he ever started in the NBA. And there were, let's just say, some different people in his life who were taking a stab at guiding him in various directions. And Mitch at that time, and honestly, even into his NBA career, I think was being pulled in some different directions. And he was just kind of, for lack of a better word, along for the ride. So he may have, shown up at Western Kentucky ostensibly to be a part of the basketball team. I don't know that Mitchell Robinson ever really fully understood what being a college athlete entailed, as far as the things that are required of you and so on and so forth. So I like the notion of getting kicked out of a college and like getting kicked off the team and the whole thing sounds really bad. I don't read it that way. I think Mitch was just a kid, very literally a kid, a big kid, but a kid who was kind of caught in the crossfire of some different people who may have been interested in some different things as it pertained to his life. And then he applied for or entered the NBA draft and got drafted by the Knicks.
Anyway, but despite all of that, still got drafted by the Knicks. So in a redraft, I don't know if you have the 2018 NBA draft handy, but like, I'm wondering if he ends up going to college and plays a year or two.
You're talking about redrafting. Hold on. You're talking about if he had gone to college, performed at college, where would he have gone? Where would he have gotten drafted?
I think he's a top 7 or 8 pick in a redraft. Like there's the obvious ones like SGA, Luka, Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, all go ahead of Mitch. But like, where does Mitch end up if you just take where the draft was? Like, do the Magic instead see Mitchell Robinson, like you said, a high school a prospect and McDonald's All-American, and is Mitch the prospect that Mo Bamba ends up being at 6 instead?
So I think the ceiling in terms of the highest that he would go, and again, this is tough because this is assuming he would have not only gone to college, but like performed well,
right,
which would have entailed him being like an active participant in his college team and like all of those sorts of things. And I don't, again, know if the whatever, a 19-year-old Mitchell Robinson was like in a place to do that. But let's just assume he went out there and he did. I think the ceiling is 6, which is where Mo Bamba went to the Magic. I think the floor is 13, which was the second Clippers pick that they ended up using on Jerome Robinson, taken, by the way, one spot ahead of Michael Porter Jr. But Michael Porter Jr., there was all those concerns about his back and some off the court stuff. I bet. I got to tell you, I bet he goes after Mo Bamba, who there was still this thought that Mo Bamba could be like Kristaps Porzingis between the defense and the theoretical three-point shooting. I think Wendell Carter Jr. also goes ahead of Mitchell Robinson because he was also, I remember, seen as something of a sure thing coming out of Duke, the whole thing. I would bet 8 or 9. Like Colin Sexton went 8 to the Cavs. Kevin Knox famously went 9th to the Knicks. I would bet somewhere in that range. You know, Mikal Bridges was taken with the pick after that.
Yeah, with how their careers ended up, and this is, look, Scott Perry didn't do great things for the Knicks. I don't think he did necessarily bad things.
I mean, this is the best thing he did.
This is where I'm going with this. I think this is the very clear contribution that Scott Perry made to the Knicks franchise that affected it long term. Like if you're looking for one positive out of every tenure that has existed, whether a coaching tenure or a front office tenure, the one thing that you thank Scott Perry for is that he took a chance on a kid that never played in the 1 year that he spent at Western Kentucky and just saw the athleticism. And I know you remember this too. The athleticism was in your face at Summer League in 2018. And as much as Kevin Knox hitting threes, we thought, oh, we got the next Allen Houston, the next H2O. I was
next
like,
Paul George.
Well, so I was like, what's this center that we have that he can block shots and then he can block shots at the rim and then has the agility to get out to the 3-point line and block threes too. Like that was very obvious, very quick.
It was obvious. It was encouraging, but you were also worried because having read up on the Mitch backstory, and again, it's funny you bring up Scott Perry. If depending on what you believe, one of the reasons that Mitchell Robinson may have gotten drafted by Scott Perry and the Knicks is because Scott Perry had a very close relationship with, and I apologize, I forget which agent it was, but the agent who was representing Mitch at the time for like 7 minutes. It happened to be that those 7 minutes were when he was drafted by the Knicks. And like the fact that, you know, and again, shout out to Sam. I remember Sam saying this at the time, like Mitchell Robinson, of anyone in the draft, needed to go to an organization that had stability because he had all this talent, but he needed someone to nurture this talent and nurture him as a person. And then he went to the Knicks, who were arguably the most dysfunctional organization in the league at that time. So you were watching the Summer League performance and you were like, oh man, this is awesome, but is it going to work out here? And then we start to get into his career, which we can continue on the resume. Ended up being named to all-rookie second team in 2019, ahead of, among others, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Kevin Knox, and big shout out to his mom, Alonzo Trier, friend of the pod.
Yeah, you have to add context. That is a reference from before we had a YouTube channel. Alonzo Trier's mom came on the Knicks Film School podcast during the one season that Alonzo Trier played for the Knicks.
And the only thing I will always remember about that conversation is I always called him Alonzo Trier. Other people called him Trier. And I asked her, and she's like, it's Trier.
It's the one incorrect pronunciation that you've gotten right over the past few years.
That's two shots. Two shots in 15 minutes.
Eric Spoelstra. Like, I think at a certain point, Alonzo Trier, we were like, what are you doing? And then his mom came on and said, it's Trier, but Trier's fine too. And we were, oh, okay. So John got that one right.
Listen, blind squirrel. He
Broken
is.
Clock.
There you go. In the last 25 seasons, minimum 1,000 minutes. Mitchell Robinson, first in total blocks for the Knicks, first in total offensive rebounds for the Knicks. No shocker there. And second in field goal percentage to Tyson Chandler?
No, that's the trivia. That's right. Okay, I'll play this out. It's second in field goal percentage. Again, minimum 1,000 minutes. Tyson Chandler's in the top 5 though.
Sure he is. Jericho Sims.
Jericho Sims is correct.
Redemption.
Every now and then, your knowledge of obscure Knicks trivia just shines and it comes out, and it's so impressive. I
didn't know that ahead of time. I just
knew Sims to narrow it down to Jericho Sims as your second guess. I would have gone to like David Lee. I would have gone to like
it's got to be a center who doesn't take shots outside of 3 feet.
Cantor Freedom. Like I knew it would be a center. Like a low volume center. It would have been several guesses before I got to Jericho Sims. Jericho Sims, a 71.8% field goal percentage, with Mitchell Robinson at exactly through this point in his Knicks career 70%.
Yeah, and one of them, Mitchell Robinson's career has had like so many chapters. One of those chapters was the season where it was like, is he going to break Wilt Chamberlain's record? And he wound up doing so. Which is why it's kind of funny that his field goal percentage has steadily gone down since then. We could maybe get into that. Playoffs. 3rd in total playoff win shares, only behind Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. And then the 2025-26 season will make him the longest tenured Knick on this list and the longest tenured Knick since, Andrew Claudio, I'm sure you know this answer.
Since Carmelo Anthony, who was also at 7 years.
Well, no, he'll go past Carmelo, so then he'll be the longest tenured Knick since when? Since who?
That I actually wouldn't know. Is it? It's someone from the 90s.
It is someone from the 90s.
Is it Kurt? Is it Allen Houston? Is it Ewing?
So it is. So it's Kurt and Allen Houston. Well, sorry, it's Allen Houston is the correct answer because he was here for a total of 10 seasons and he came in the 96-97 season. And before that, you have to go to Charlie Ward. Yeah. So point is, Mitchell Robinson has been here for a while. And because he's been here for a while, the one stat that you don't have up here, but I will shout out, is that, again, for the 25 seasons that we are considering, Mitchell Robinson, 3rd in total regular season win shares, behind only Carmelo Anthony and David Lee. Shout out to David Lee in the David Lee episode. I regret nothing. And then you want to guess, again, I love putting you on the spot. You want to guess where Mitchell Robinson ranks in win shares for his draft class.
Oh, he's 7th. I already know this. Yeah.
Do you want to see if you could rattle off the 6 players ahead of him?
Jalen Brunson. SGA,
yes, he's 3rd. First.
SGA. Luka Doncic, Trae Young,
4th,
Mikal Bridges,
5th.
So there's one I'm missing,
and it's one that it is surprising at first, and then you remember where he spent the first 4 or 5 seasons of his career.
See, I just had this up, which is why I'm DeAndre Ayton. It's a center draft. Yeah.
The first overall pick in the draft. So if you're keeping track, the Knicks have 3 of the top 7 win share guys from the 2018 draft. They had the 11th ranked win share guy from the 2018 draft, Dante DiVincenzo. And Mitchell Robinson ranks ahead of such guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., the aforementioned Michael Porter Jr., Wendell Carter Jr., Miles Bridges. I know he has had some complications, but like a lot of, Colin Sexton, he's way ahead of Colin Sexton. So he's had himself a nice little career.
And of those top 9, of those top 11 that you're talking about, played the fewest number of games to still be 7th in total win shares.
Yeah, which if you go to the other category, win shares per 48 minutes, he's 2nd in that draft class. And the only guy ahead of him is a guy that he was comped to for the first 4 or 5 years of his career, Time Lord, Robert Williams in Boston.
Yeah. So where did you have him ranked, John?
So I had Mitchell Robinson ranked 11th, which as is becoming a theme for me with players on the not even just players on the current team. I feel like this is like the 4th or 5th person that we've done that I'm higher on than anyone else, which I then offset by being lower on than everyone else, which I offset by being higher on than anyone else on guys like David Lee and Kurt Thomas. What can I say? I made my choices. So I had him 11th. And DJ Zulo is at the top of the list with Mitch. He's the only person who has Mitch in the top 5. He has him 5th. Kev Words has him 6th. You, along with a few other voters, had him 8th. And then I wasn't the only person who had him at 11th, for what it's worth. Sean with the W had him 11th. Jeremy had him 11th. So, like, I think this is he's clearly in the 8 to 11 range. Like, everybody, if they don't have him at the back end of the top 10, like me, they had him right outside the top 10. And I'm just going to admit, I moved him up. I initially had him lower, and I moved him up to 11th, and that was the highest that I personally could justify moving him up. Because for as much as I love Mitchell Robinson, as much as I am excited to talk about Mitchell Robinson right now, I still, I guess, view Mitchell Robinson as a quasi-starting center. He's been here for 7 years. Very rarely over the course of those 7 years, and I think this is a good entryway into the Mitch convo, has he been, like, undisputedly the starting center on the team / the best center on the team. And we could go through some of the other players that have been here over the course of time, but like whether it's Taj Gibson, whether it's Isaiah Hartenstein, whether it's Nerlens Noel, whether it's, Karl-Anthony Towns right now. Like, and that's a different conversation because it's like whether Karl plays the 4 or the 5, not whether he's like more effective than Mitchell Robinson. Although you could certainly make the case in the 2025 playoffs that there were moments where Mitchell Robinson was the more effective and more impactful in terms of winning center of those two.
I would not make that case, but I also want to celebrate Mitch for what he is. And we know how you feel about Karl-Anthony Towns. So when we get to that episode,
we'll get to that episode soon.
Karl-Anthony Towns conversation. I think the guy that's the engine on the team, you've mentioned Sam a lot on this show. He would make the argument that it's not a conversation. The engine matters more than the auxiliary parts, but I digress. The fact that Mitchell Robinson is able to be the best set of brake pads or the best windshield wipers in a short, concise time span is why he ended up around 8. For me, I have too many playoff series that he just completely changed, played an important role in. When we go through lasting images and memories, you'll see like there's a whole Cavs series that they just did not know what to do with Mitchell Robinson for 5 games.
It's a whole Celtics series that we just watched where they didn't know what to do with Mitchell Robinson.
Well, they had an idea and it became such an overriding thing that, okay, we're going to foul you. Like, we're going to make you beat us at the free throw line. And it got in their heads so much that it became an advantage to the Knicks. Like, we're going to make sure you get into the bonus before you foul Mitch out of the game. And then it's like the best 3D chess move that Tibbs made in a series that he outcoached Missoula was that game 2 stretch where Missoula's just trying to get Mitch off the floor. He intentionally fouls him. And then Tibbs is like, wait, OG, don't go back in yet. And says, let them foul him again. So that way we get in the bonus. And how did the Knicks win that game? Jalen Brunson draws a foul on Drew Holiday. And because they're in the bonus, they get 2 free throws. Like, that's how nervous Joe Mazzulla was. And I haven't even mentioned yet, there's a series against the against the Sixers, in which Joel Embiid, as much of a loser as we've established on this show, he kind of got whatever he wanted against Isaiah Hartenstein, including getting to the line as often as he did. And the only games in which the Knicks the only game that he had 50 was the game that he almost ended Mitchell Robinson's career by almost getting ejected. Like, they were able to neutralize Embiid in spurts when Mitch was in the game. He defended Embiid the best throughout that series, aside from a stretch in game 4 where OG and Precious went back and forth guarding him. But still, like, as far as a center is concerned, yeah, I know his impact and I recognize his impact.
So Sam Vecini has forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. So I don't disagree with him. I do think, and what makes the Mitch conversation interesting is that, yeah, he's a role player. Like, he's absolutely a role player. And more than that, he's a role player with limitations. And those limitations are very real and they're very obvious. And I would argue, and I have argued many times, and it's part of why I had him 11th, that those limitations are real drawbacks. They're not just like window dressing limitations. It's like there are certain things that as a basketball team you can't necessarily count on doing or being able to do when Mitchell Robinson is on the floor. All that being said, he is so disruptive to the opposing team's game plan on both ends of the floor because of I'm not trying to boil him down to two skills, but like his two elite skills, which are guarding the pick and roll on defense and then grabbing every offensive rebound on the offensive end. Like those two things, like there's no game plan for those things on an opposing team. There's no personnel that you could put out there to eliminate those two things that Mitchell Robinson could do. It's just, if he's out there, you are at his whim in terms of if he's going to be able, like, just, he could destroy you. And like, yes, he's a role player, but a role player that could do those things, it makes him a tough guy to reconcile with.
It's why we should get to the categories, because I think
Sure.
the different ways to talk about him, there's ways to celebrate him, but there is a very big thing we wish had gone differently in how often he's able to stay on the court.
Well,
Like how ideal role for the current team. I think he'd be a very big difference maker in a Knicks Cavs series. I also have no idea if he's going to be healthy for that Knicks Cavs series. So I agree. Disruptive is a word. I agree with everything you said in the speaking glowingly about Mitchell Robinson. There is some context required is all.
quick break to tell you about America's first ever USDA organic THC gummy. You know the words. Shout out to Cornbread. Yes, Cornbread, the source of your healthy happy hour. It's a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment. Cornbread's THC gummies offer a balanced sense of happiness and relaxation. Well, how do they achieve that balance? My favorite thing about Cornbread is it's just the right amount for me as someone who is not a regular user of these sorts of products, but still wants to get that relaxation without feeling anxious or paranoid like some other cannabis edibles, which is why Cornbread's 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio is perfect for me. They have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, which is just the right dose, and it gives me everything I need without any of the stuff that I don't want. If you are looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They have created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that is 100% legal. As a special offer to Knicks Film School listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use promo code KFS at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. So let's start best memory, lasting image as a Knick. My best memory of Mitchell Robinson doesn't have one image. My best memory of Mitchell Robinson is the first round against the Cavs. And it was the overarching performance and the fact that he made a guy in Jared Allen, who was, lest we forget, compared to Mitch a lot over the years because he played across the river and he was the Nets guy and he was the guy he averaged more points. He certainly got a bigger contract. He made an all-star team. And Mitchell Robinson, you can't say he ended Jared Allen's career, but has Jared Allen ever beaten those allegations? Even this past postseason, with what the Cavs didn't do and how they folded yet again, oh yeah, it's the Cavs. They some of those guys just fold in the playoffs. That all started with the series against the Knicks and with the series against Mitch. And that's why that, for me, again, almost regardless of what he does from here on in, I think that's always going to be the thing that I remember most about Mitchell Robinson as a Knick.
If you didn't get a chance to, if you're watching this, you obviously didn't get a chance to, but I put up, by the time this airs, I will have put up the crossover that I did with the Chase Down a couple weeks ago. We put it on the audio feed if you want to listen to it, and you can hear the nervousness in their voices about do we trust this team to bear down in a moment where things get tough. And it stems back to that series, and it stems back to that moment. And I actually do have a lasting image, but you're right, it's from that series. But like, knowing whether your best players have that moment or that chutzpah, that backbone, whatever you want to call it, to push through adversity is a question in Cleveland right now. That began when, as favorites in a series, they lost, and then 2 years later, favored in a series against Indiana, they lost. The lasting image I have from this series, I talked about on the Josh Hart pod, and more specifically the Hall of Fame we did with Josh Hart, because it's not a Josh Hart moment, but it is a big Josh Hart rebound that he got. Late in the game, late in the fourth quarter, it's a back and forth affair, but the Knicks are starting to gain some momentum in the fourth quarter. And there's
which game is this?
This is game 4 at the Garden. The Knicks are up 2-1 in the series. They're up late, and late in the game, somebody misses a three. I forget who it was, but somebody misses a three. I think it's actually Obi. No, it's not the Obi missed three, because it's a Josh Hart offensive rebound that leads to a Jalen Brunson three-pointer. And I'm looking for it now. I found it. Okay, it's RJ misses a three with 150 left. Josh Hart gets the offensive rebound, and Jalen Brunson hits a three to put the Knicks up 10 with 145 left. The reason that Josh Hart offensive rebound is significant is because if you watch the replay, both Mobley and Allen are boxing out Mitchell Robinson. They sent their two big men, one would eventually become the defensive player of the year, and the other one that year was an all-star, or maybe the year before was an all-star. They sent their two big men to guard the Knicks center because he was mucking things up so much. He was such a force in that series. And it's why Josh Hart was able to have such an effective series, because you want to talk about gravity. Mitch's gravity on the offensive boards throughout that series was so impactful. And honestly, it's the Mitch Robinson series, but that image of both Mobley and Allen guarding Mitch, allowing for Josh to get the rebound, and it was the entire Tibbs blueprint just existing in that one moment.
So I'm going to read the 5 games. Mitchell Robinson's offensive rebounds. Game 1, 5 offensive rebounds. Game 2, 1 offensive rebound. Not coincidentally, the one game that the Knicks lost. Nobody played well in that game. That was oh my God. Do you remember after game 2 how it went? All the vibes went right back to shit.
I especially remember talking to you after game 2, and you were. The vibes were bad, and I remember us talking at the end of a pod in between game 2 and 3, and I was like, they have to beat us at home. I need to see them beat us at home first. And you were like, they're going to. This series is over. And I was able to very clearly point out that they need to win a game at Madison Square Garden, and they hadn't yet.
Did I have because I had the series is over moment in the Cavs series, in the Sixers series. Did I have one in the Pistons series? I don't think I did.
No, but the Pistons series is tough to talk about because all of us were like, they're the better team, but we're so ready for this team to get knocked up out of here. And there's not a big leap to take to find a way that the Pistons win that series either.
No, there is. Anyway, okay. So game 1, Mitch, 5 offensive rebounds. Game 2, 1. Game 3, another 5. Game 4, 7 offensive rebounds. Game 5, 11 offensive rebounds in 36 minutes, 18 rebounds total. It was, it was dominance to a different degree. And he just he owned the series. Jalen Brunson was the best player in the series. Mitchell Robinson was maybe the most important player in the series. Which is a good way to transition to biggest regret, something we wish would have gone differently or better, even if out of their control. I don't know that I've ever said this. I'll say it now, though. If Joel Embiid doesn't do what he did, I'm not gonna call him any names.
Loser.
I'm
Jackass.
I'm thinking of some worse
Bitch.
ones. Worse than that. Anyway, if Joel Embiid doesn't do what he did, how big do I want to go with this? So I think the Knicks definitely beat the Pacers because Isaiah Hartenstein, he gave it everything he had. He had nothing left by the end of that Pacers series. Nothing. And the Achua thing kind of ran its course. And yeah. And so, yeah, if Mitch doesn't get hurt, I think the Knicks beat the Pacers. And man, like, it's a year later, but like we just saw what he did against Boston, you know, and it's not like they had a ton of better answers for him on the team that won the championship. So I don't know, man. Without question, that's my biggest regret, that he gets hurt in that Philly series.
I think I don't have the same leap that you do, but I recognize the sentiment, and I think that playoff run, him getting hurt, is the one that stands out to me. Look, the biggest
what else
regret,
would it be?
The biggest regret, and something you wish would have gone differently, is that he didn't get hurt so much. So we're basically picking which playoff run or which season that was mucked up by injuries do you wish had gone differently, that he wished he was healthy for. And I think having him healthy for that Pacers series so that you get a shot at Boston a year earlier is, I mean, you could go a direction, but I've never, Jeff and I have talked about this, and it's the thing that end of game 1 against Indiana this past season. Okay. Mitch is on the floor. They go on that 16-0 run, and Brunson and Cat are both off the floor. Yep. And there is an argument. I don't know. I personally am not going to fault Tibbs for this. I've never seen a team be like, I'm going to keep my best 2 players off the floor at the end. But if you wanted to make that argument, you could. I think that's the only other one I could go to that is close, that Mitch was so impactful in game 1. And the thing I also keep going back to is like the Knicks kept the lead for the next 3 minutes. Like at the exact same spot it was still 14 over the next 3 minutes when Brunson and Cat came back. It's just then Nesmith started hitting everything, and there were some plays that happened over the next 2.5 minutes that I'm not going to say Mitch wouldn't have been a part of, as far as turnover here, a missed free throw there. You also then have Mitchell Robinson on the floor in a moment where they're looking to get the ball back. So it's why I say like I'm fine with them going back to the starting 5 during the last 3 minutes of the collapse.
And look, Mitch is not above a boneheaded play. Shout out to game 5 against the Sixers.
It's the other one I would go to, is that if they wrap that thing up in 5, Mitch has 4 days off and doesn't have to play game 6. And like, who knows if that extra game of war doesn't exist. But if he doesn't jump on Tyrese Maxey's 4-point play, now we also don't get the end of game 6 and how great that Josh Hart moment was and eliminating them on their floor and how fun that was. But if you want to make that case, and look, Hawks fans are very annoying. I was going to
go to this.
So I'll let you go there. But like, having him at all in the Hawks series 2 years earlier also would have been a fun thing to have, because I don't think that series is as lopsided as it is if we have our starting center.
No, and it was, Nerlens Noel was so good that season, and Taj Gibson was very good in that series. But like, Trae Young carved them up. Like, Mitchell Robinson I almost certainly makes a better impact there. And then just the last thing I'll say about game 1 against the Pacers, for as much of a disaster as Karl-Anthony Towns was at times defensively in that series and just in the playoffs generally, there was only one play in the last 3.5 minutes of that game that Towns, it stuck out for me. And it was the one, I think, we've never got full confirmation on this, but resulted in him and OG Anunoby arguing on the bench during that timeout. And it was Towns kind of falling asleep on, I forget how but it was one of the Nesmith threes, and Towns should have been there and he was not there. Am I 100% sure that Mitchell Robinson would have been there? No, I'm not, but do I think it's more likely? Yeah, I do. And like, again, it was one play, but that game was lost because 99 different single things all went the Pacers' way. And so,
right. I'm just not going to rule out that Mitch wouldn't have made a bonehead play down the stretch because of what we literally saw a year earlier in the final 30 seconds against Philly. And again, I can understand a coach being like, we're up 14. I want to take away the risk of the Hack-a-Mitch, allowing them to get possessions over the next few minutes. So, and look, they're up 14 with 5 minutes left, and then up 14 again with 2.5 minutes left. Like your all NBA players should be able to close that out.
Well, again, the Karl-Anthony Towns episode will be taking place soon. Sorry, I'm mentally preparing myself for that.
Mm-hmm. We will.
Totally high on Cat this season, by the way. Don't
you didn't try to trade him all summer for Kevin Durant. It's okay.
I dabbled in the mental thought process of that for like
a couple episodes, a couple weeks after the playoffs, after Tibbs got fired. Yes.
That's 3. You don't get any more. You get 3. I
just stated a fact there. I'm sorry I remember how the summer went, John.
You and your fucking memory.
Oh, man. This is one of those moments where you wish I forgot everything.
Like, I always wish you forgot everything.
Yeah.
Okay. What role would this player have on this current team? I mean, I don't want to repeat ourselves. We kind of just had this conversation on the Josh Hart episode.
I have a take.
What?
I hope Mitch doesn't start.
Why?
I think, given his injury history at this point in his career, his best role is what we saw in the Celtics series, in the Pistons series, and more importantly, the year before in the Sixers series. And it's 20 to 25 minutes off the bench in the most impactful, like you said, disruptive moments of the game, where if you want to play him with Cat, you can, and go double bigs. If you want to play him just as the center in good defensive lineups with Josh Hart and win the possession battle, you can. I hope he doesn't start, because I think, and look, maybe Mike Brown will be better about staggering, but I worry about Mitch playing anything close to 30 minutes, 25 plus minutes a game. I think a very impactful 18 to 20 minutes a game is what will best utilize Mitchell Robinson, more so to the point that I made earlier. I need him healthy for a Cavs Knicks conference final. And that, if that's where we're all headed for, I need him to be available for that series.
So Mitchell Robinson has never averaged 30 minutes a game in either regular season or a playoff series. His high for a playoff series is the aforementioned Cavs series, when he averaged 28.2 minutes a game. In this past playoff run, which again, he was, again, not the best player of the 2025 playoffs, but when I think of the 2025 playoffs and I think about who I was personally most impressed by, Mitchell Robinson is the first name on the list. And that's no disrespect to Jalen Brunson. I just think Mitch was awesome. He averaged 16.5 minutes per game in the Detroit series, 20.7 minutes per game in the Boston series, and then starting 4 games, averaged 24.5 minutes in the Pacer series. His high for a full season, 27 minutes a game. He averaged that in the 22-23 campaign. Started 58 out of 59 games. That was Jalen Brunson's first season here in New York. Actually, no, it's a lie. He averaged 27.5 minutes in his third season. That was the 2021 season. Okay. I don't know that I care that much whether he starts or not. If I have my druthers right now, I think I'd like to see Mike Brown go with Deuce and just see what that looks like. I've already said I don't care about Hart and Mitch both coming off the bench. One, because again, it's staggering, and two, it doesn't mean that they have to do that in a playoff series.
I guess it's more of a minutes conversation than a starter or come off the bench conversation for me.
You know what it is? I think it's a massive decision. I will just say that. I think it is a massive decision for as much as the Tibbs line. It's not about who starts, it's about who closes. Whether you start Karl-Anthony Towns at center or whether you start Mitchell Robinson at center, you are essentially that is the mission statement of your team that you are making. Because on one end, it's like, yeah, we're going to try to stop people, right? That is what you were effectively saying. On the other hand, it's like, we're going to try to be the best offense in the league, regardless of whether it's Deuce or Josh. So not to say that they can't be an exceptional offense if Mitch starts, which maybe is the best argument for starting him. Like, who's to say they can't be a top 5 offense if they start Mitchell Robinson? I think they certainly can be.
They'll have to get offense a different way for sure. I think what you're hinting at with starting Deuce is like, it's less about whether your offense or defense is good during the stretches. It's, are we winning the minutes? And I think you win the minutes if Deuce is the starting, if you go to the 5-out lineup, right? The Deuce lineup. And then you also win the minutes when Mitch comes in and you have a good defense over that stretch, and not a gangbusters offense, but you're winning the minutes significantly because of how good your defense is during that stretch.
Look, ultimately, I think, as you said, it's all about, you said it for a health reason. I'm saying it more of like you just got to be ready. You got to be ready for all the different pivots that you might make. You got to be ready for the pivots that the opposing team might make. This is all about, I don't want to say it's all about Cleveland, but it's like, it's all about the different foes that you might face come playoff time, including, God willing, in the Western Conference. So I don't know. It's an interesting discussion. Look, he's gonna play big minutes. He's gonna play, I would say, north of 20 minutes a game. Probably, let's put an over under on it right now. I'll put an over under of, or a prediction, I guess it's not an over under. I'll put an over under on minutes per game this season for Mitchell Robinson at 23.5.
Under, but not. I think 20 to 22 is like he averaged 17 last year. I understand he was coming back from injury, so that doesn't.
Wait, so your prediction is 21 because you said between 20 and 22.
That's like the number I'm thinking, that the best version for Mitchell Robinson this season is one that plays anywhere from 17 to 25. That's a wide range, but like, you see what I'm saying? There will be certain games where he is so impactful, he plays 25 minutes. There are also games where, we need to go with our offense more this game, or they're hack-a-mitching. We're going to go with him playing 15 minutes this game. So I'll go 21.
The line will be placed at 22.5.
I'll go under, but I don't feel super strong about it. I think we're in the range. We're talking a minute or two difference here.
Are you willing to bet a beverage on it, or are you not willing to bet?
No, this isn't anything. If you had said 30, then yes, I'd take the under significantly, or even 25. We're in the same range of a minute or two here and there. That's the curve we're grading on.
What if this
isn't like how many games will Deuce start or anything like that. That's something to bet on. But I also don't know what Mike Brown's going to do. I don't have the track record.
You wouldn't bet beverage on under 24? I'll take over 24.
I'll take under 24 and we'll bet a beverage. Sounds good.
There we go. Gotta have something on the line. Okay. Last thing legacy with Knicks fans. A guy that has brought me immense joy. And I should go back on something I said in the Josh Hart episode where I was like, I never want to see Jalen Brunson play another minute for another team, or any minutes for another team. I never want to see Josh Hart play another minute for another team. I will add Mitchell Robinson to that list. I think I have been so conditioned, maybe of my own doing, to just expect that Mitchell Robinson is going to get traded at some point in time that I don't think it's realistic that he's going to play the rest of his career with the Knicks. And yet, this is year 8. I know he hasn't signed a contract extension yet. I wrote a little bit for the Knicks Film School newsletter earlier this summer about why I actually don't expect him to sign an extension unless he's willing to sign something like just for a really low number. And I just don't see that. That said, I just said in the last episode, I think Josh Hart loves being a Knick. I think Mitchell Robinson adores being a Knick. And I don't think he ever wants to play another game for another franchise. Would he if that was what was in the best interest of his career? Yeah, sure. But he's a guy that I never want to see play for another team. And not to repeat myself, but when he is going, one of the most disruptive forces that we've ever seen in a Knick uniform.
Well said. I don't have anything else to really add to the Mitch part of that. I spent a lot of time on the Josh Hart episode talking about Tibbs and how he could have used him a little less last year and how that might have led into some of the negative conversation about Josh Hart. And shout out to our YouTube commenters who said, like, no, Josh Hart has several moments from last year that were special, and you guys should consider them. I'd like to sing the praises of Tom Thibodeau if I can, because I think Mitchell Robinson's success in the NBA, it's not allowed. It's definitely allowed when I'm on a podcast with John Macri, that's for sure. And I think the thing you spoke about earlier about Mitch needing to go to a place with structure, and the fact that he ended up with the 2018 Knicks to start, that team that won 17 games, traded Porzingis midway through the season, and had one basket that they were putting all their eggs in. And when it didn't happen, they signed a bunch of power forwards. And thankfully, within a couple months, nobody else was left from that group. But hiring Tom Thibodeau and establishing a floor and a guy that just knows how to work with centers and become the center whisperer, I think did wonders for Mitchell Robinson's career. And like, credit to Mitch for putting in the work and becoming what he was on his own. But also the legacy of Tom Thibodeau is all over the lasting legacy of Mitchell Robinson. And if there's anything I could thank Tibbs for, it's like, thank you for coaching up and being the structure that Mitchell Robinson needed. While also, like you said, appreciating Mitch for being one of those guys that I'm also looking forward to being part of a team that's going to make a run at a championship this year.
Very well said. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you can take everything you just said and take it even a step further. For several years, and I understand things have kind of changed over the last year, but for the meat of the Tibbs era, they built a roster around Mitchell Robinson. You know, like thinking back to the Fred Katz article from whatever year, like 2-3 years ago, talking about like their analytics was like, we want guys who are going to take short mid-rangers. And what's the big reason we want that? Because we know Mitchell Robinson, if they miss, is going to gobble up those rebounds. And then because we know Mitchell Robinson can only play 20, 25, whatever minutes a game, we're going to go out and sign another guy who was like top 3 at doing exactly that thing in Isaiah Hartenstein. And then on the other end of the floor, like, we're just going to make sure that we might give up threes. We might do this. We might do that. No one's coming inside on us.
And again, to your point about going out and getting guys that use that Mitchell Robinson impact, this is where that Josh Hart conversation comes in. That also our guard is going to be able to come in and get big offensive rebounds and be one of the best rebounding guards maybe ever. So yeah, because of Mitch's impact, they knew. And like, this was the RJ excuse that the guy lives at the rim. Yeah. So even if he's missing all these shots at the rim and he isn't as accurate, it plays into a blueprint that ended up with the 4th best offense in the NBA statistically because of how effective it was. It's like, fine, miss all the short shots at the rim you can, RJ. Mitchell Robinson is here. And it's a blueprint that worked really well a couple of years ago. It's to your point about the roster construction now, you have to prioritize your first shot now when you have all these elite shooters on the team. But maybe we'll get a bunch of second units that play to that blueprint a lot this season, and I'm excited to see it.
Miss RJ lobs to Mitch, definitely. And then, you know, it's last thing, that 9-block game against the Orlando Magic in like 2 weeks into Mitchell Robinson's rookie season. to think how like that's where this started essentially. I mean, it started at Summer League, like you said, but like that's where it was like, holy shit. And then thinking about how the ups and downs of that rookie year and how this guy was just such a revelation, and then to become like in certain ways the most stable presence on their roster. Like, think about that. The guy who wouldn't go to class at Western Kentucky and got kicked off the freaking team is now like, when you think about the Knicks, yeah, they got Jalen Brunson, they have Karl-Anthony Towns, like all these guys. Like, for a lot of people out there, like Mitchell Robinson's like the first guy that they think of, not only because he's been here the longest, but because when you think about Knicks basketball, when you think about the things that have traditionally been important to winning Knicks basketball, you think about players like Mitchell Robinson, which is why I'm very happy, despite the fact that I had him ranked 11th, he ends up in squarely in our top 10.
Indeed.
On that note, thank you very much, Andrew Claudio, for doing another one of these episodes with me. We will be back with more fun and games on Monday with our
number
7th ranked player.
Yes.
And we're gonna kick it old school a little bit for that one. I may have just given it away, but no, I don't know.
A little bit.
I mean, you know, there's a couple of guys left who are not on the current team and have not been on the team in a while. I'll just leave it at that. So something to look forward to there. And yeah, everybody, hope you have a great weekend. And we will be back very soon. Peace out.